Welcome to Soothing Stories and Stretches. So as per usual, we're gonna do our 2 yoga poses to begin with. And then tonight's story is gonna be a little bit longer than normal, so hopefully it goes well. And then we'll do one more yoga pose and deep breathing. So our first yoga pose of the night is cat pose. Get down onto all fours, then round and arch your back to look like a cat while breathing deep. So, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there are some workout videos and stuff like that that say after you do a cat pose, you're supposed to do a cow pose. So with that one, you just go like this. So you flex your back the opposite way and bring your head up. So it's cat and cow. But we'll just do the cat pose for tonight. But if you guys are ever interested in doing kind of an opposite stretch to something that we're doing, I'll try and incorporate those. And then our second main yoga pose of the night is butterfly. While sitting down, put the flats of your feet together, then put your hands on your feet. Your legs and arm make the butterfly wings. Gently move them while breathing deep. So this one, because our back stays straight, we kind of don't have to worry too much about doing an opposite yoga pose. So my hands are on my feet. One's at a butterfly wings, the other, and I guess we're supposed to lean forward, but if you wanted to, you could just sit up straight and do this one. And like go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. All right, let's do one more round of deep breathing before we head to our story. Remember, sit up nice and tall. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Ready? Enjoyed the stretches, and I hope you enjoy this story. Today, March 8th, is International Women's Day, so I wanted to try and find a story that had primarily female characters, but they didn't set them against each other, which was kind of hard to find because there's lots of wicked stepmothers and wicked sisters or stepsisters, wicked fairies, witches, etc. for villains in European fairy tales, or I wasn't able to pronounce the names of other female characters from other folklore. But finally I did come across an old fairy tale that had been collected by the Grimm brothers called Snow White and Rose Red. I hope you enjoy. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, a poor widow once lived in a little cottage. In front of the cottage, there was a garden in which was growing 2 rose trees. One of these bore white roses and the other red. She had 2 daughters who resembled the rose trees. One was called Snow White and the other Rose Red. And they were as loving and kind busy and untiring as two children ever were. Snow White was more gentle and quieter than her sister, who liked nothing better than skipping about the fields, seeking flowers, and catching summer birds. While Snow White liked to stay home with her mother, either helping her in her work, or, when that was done, reading. The two daughters had the greatest of affection for each other, and were always seen hand in hand. And should Snow White say to her sister, "We would never separate," the other would reply, "Not while we live," with the mother adding, "That which one has, let her always share with the other." They constantly ran together in the woods, collecting ripe berries, but not a single animal would have injured them. Quite the reverse. They felt the greatest esteem for the young creatures. The hare came to eat parsley from their hands, the deer grazed by their sides, the stag bounded past them unheeding, and the birds likewise did not stir from their brow, but sang in entire security. No mischance befell them. If they played too long and night fell while they were still in the woods, they just lay down in the moss to sleep until morning, and their mother was satisfied to their safety and felt no fear about them. In wintertime, Snow White set light to the fire and put on the kettle, after polishing it till it was like gold for brightness. In the evening, when snow was falling, her mother would bid her to bolt the door, and then, sitting by the hearth, the good widow would read out loud to them from a big book while the little girls were spinning. Close by them lay a lamb and a white pigeon with its head tucked under its wing on a perch behind. One evening, as they were all sitting cozily together like this, there was a knock at the door, as if someone wished to come in. "Make haste, Rose Red," her mother said. "Open the door. It is surely some traveler seeking shelter." Rose Red accordingly pulled back the bolt, expecting to see some poor man. But it was nothing of the kind. It was a bear, which thrust its big black head into the open door. Rose Red cried out and sprang back. The lamb bleated, the dove fluttered her wings, and Snow White hid herself behind her mother's bed. The bear began speaking and said, "Do not be afraid. I will not do you any harm. I am half frozen, and I would like to warm myself a little by your fire." "Poor bear," the mother replied. "Come in and lie by the fire. Only be careful that your hair is not burnt." Then she called to Snow White and Rose Red, telling them that the bear was kind and would not harm them. They came as she bade them, and presently the lamb and the dove drew near also without fear. "Children," begged the bear, "knock some of the snow off my coat." So they brought the broom and brushed the bear's coat quite clean. After that, he stretched himself out in front of the fire and pleased himself by snoring a little to show that he was happy and comfortable. Before long, they were all good friends, and the children began to play with their unlooked-for visitor, pulling his thick fur, or placing their feet on his back, or rolling him over and over. Then they took a slender hazel twig, using it to brush out his thick coat, and laughed when he growled. The bear permitted them to amuse themselves in this way, only occasionally crying out when it went a little too far, girls, spare me an inch of my life." When it was full dark and they were all making ready to go to bed, the widow told the bear, "You may stay here and lie by the hearth if you like, so that you will be sheltered from the cold and from the bad weather." The offer was accepted, but when morning came, as the day broke in the east, the two girls let him out, and over the snow he went back into the wood. But after this, every evening at the same time, the bear came, lay by the fire, and allowed the girls to play with him, so that they became quite fond of their curious playmate. And the door was not ever bolted in the evening until he had appeared. When springtime came, and all around began to look green and bright, one morning the bear said to Snow White, "Now I must leave you, and all the summer long I shall not be able to come back." "Where then are you going, dear bear?" asked Snow White. "I have to go into the woods to protect my treasure from the bad dwarf. In winter time, when the earth is frozen hard, they must remain below ground and cannot make their way through. But now that the sunshine has thawed the earth, they can come to the surface, and whatever gets into their hands or is brought to their caves seldom, if ever, sees daylight." Snow White was quite sad when she said goodbye to the good-natured beast, and unfastened the door so they might go. But in his leaving, he was caught by a hook by the lintel, and a scrap of his fur was torn. Snowy thought that there was something shining like gold through the rip, but he went out so quickly that she could not feel certain what it was, and soon he was hidden among the trees. One day, a while later, the mother sent her children into the woods to pick up sticks. They found a big tree lying on the ground. It had been felled, and towards the roots they had noticed something skipping and springing, which they could not make out, as it was sometimes hidden in the grasses. As they came ever nearer, they could see it was a dwarf, with a shriveled up face and a snow-white beard all long. The beard was fixed into a gash in the tree trunk, and the little fellow was hopping to and fro like a dog at the end of his leash, but he could not manage to free himself. He stared at the children with his fiery eyes and called out, "What do you think, standing there? Can't you come and help me?" "What are you doing, little fellow?" inquired Rose Red. "Silly, inquisitive goose! I meant to split the trunk so that I could chop it up for fire sticks. Big woods would burn up all the quantity of food we cook, for people like us do not consume great heaps of food, as you heavy, greedy folk do. My axe dug in, and soon I should have done what I required. But the tool sprang up from the cleft, and which was so quickly shot up again that it caught my handsome red beard. And here I must stop, for I cannot set myself free." "You silly little girls! You laugh, do you?" In spite of the dwarf's bad temper, the girls took all possible pains to release the man, but it was without avail. The beard could not be moved. It was wedged in too tightly. "I will run and get someone else," said Rose Red. "Idiot!" cried the dwarf. "Who would go and get more people? Already there are too many. Can't you think of anything better?" "Don't be so impatient," said Snow White. I have an idea." She clapped her hand and took out her scissors, and in a moment set the dwarf free by cutting off the end of his beard. As soon as the dwarf felt that he was free, he seized the sack of gold that was hidden among the tree roots and lifting it up, grumbled, "Clumsy creature, to cut off a bit of my beautiful beard, of which I am so proud. I'll leave the cuckoos to you to pay you for what you did." Saying this, he swung the sack over his shoulder and went off, without even casting a glance at the children. A few days later, the two sisters went to fish in the brook, and as they were drawing near the water, they perceived something, looking like a large grasshopper, springing towards the stream, as if it was going to go in. They hurried up to see what it might be, and found it was that same bad-tempered dwarf. "Where are you going?" said Rose Red. "Surely you do not mean to jump in the water?" "I am not such a simpleton as that," cried the little man. "Don't you see? A fish is pulling me in." The dwarf had been angling from the side of the stream when, by ill luck, the wind had entangled his beard into his line, and then a fish took the bait. And then the little fellow had not enough strength to pull it out, so the fish had the advantage and was dragging the dwarf after it. Certainly, he caught at every stalk and spray near him, but it could not assist him. He was forced to follow all the twistings of the fish, and was perpetually in danger of being drawn into the brook. The girls had arrived just in time. They caught hold of him firmly and endeavored to untwist his beard from the line, and in vain. They were too tightly tangled. There was nothing left to do again but to make use of the scissors, and so they were taken out and the tangled portion cut off. When the dwarf noticed what they were about, he exclaimed in great rage, "Is this how you damage my beard? Not content with making it smaller before, you are now making it even smaller still, and completely spoiling it! I shall not ever dare show my face to my friends. I wish you had missed your way upon the road." Then he fetched a sack of pearls that lay among the rushes, and not saying another word, hobbled off and disappeared behind a large stone. The maidens by this time were quite used to his ungrateful, ungracious ways, so they took no notice of it, but went on their way, and were ready to return to their happy little home. On their way back, suddenly, once more, they ran across the dwarf again. Upon a clear space, he had turned out his sack of jewels so that he could count and admire them, for he had not imagined that anyone at so late an hour would be coming across the common. The setting sun was shining among the brilliant stones, and their changing hues and sparkling rays caused the children to pause to admire them so. "What are you gazing at?" cried the dwarf, at the same time becoming red with rage. "And what are you standing there for, making ugly faces?" It is probable that he might have proceeded in the same complimentary manner, but suddenly a great growl was heard by them, and a great, big, black bear joined the party. Up jumped the dwarf, in extreme terror, but could not get to his hiding place. The bear was too close to him, and so he cried out in evident anguish, "Dear Mr. Bear, forgive me, I pray! I will rend you all my treasure. Just see those precious stones lying there. Grant me my life. What would you do with such an insignificant fellow? You would not notice me between your teeth. See those two children. They would be delicate morsels, and are as plump as partridges. I beg of you to take them, dear good Mr. Bear, and let me go." But the bear would not be moved by his speeches. He gave the ill-disposed creature a blow with his paw, and he lay on the ground. Meanwhile, the maidens were running away, making off for home as well as they could, but all of a sudden they were stopped by a well-known voice. "Snow White, Rose Red, stay. Do not fear. I will accompany you." The bear came quickly towards them, but as he reached their side, suddenly the bear's skin slipped to the ground, and before them stood a handsome boy, completely garmented in gold, who said, "I am a king's son who is enchanted by the wicked dwarf lying over there. He stole my family's treasure and compelled me to roam the woods, transformed into a big bear until his death should set me free. Therefore, he has received only a well-deserved punishment, and your family deserves a reward for being so kind to me." And so, the prince, who was formerly a bear, invited Snow White and Rose Red and their mother to come and live at the palace, where they all became great friends with the Bear Prince's family, including his parents, his younger brother, and his sisters. They shared between him the enormous treasure which the dwarf had collected in his cave from stealing from others, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story. I know it is much longer than I usually do. And let's do one more round of yoga and deep breathing before we say goodnight. So, again, today is International Women's Day, and traditionally the story says that Snow White married the Bear Prince, Rose Red married his brother, but that doesn't mean that's the only happy endings out there. They could maybe not get married at all, maybe one of them married a sister, or maybe whatever, they don't get married, they end up with jobs. Like, there's so many different ways to have a happy ending nowadays. It doesn't just have to be marriage. Okay, guys? All right. Our final yoga pose of the night is child pose. Get down onto all fours, then rest your bum on your heels with your chest on the floor and your arms stretched out in front while breathing deep. So, I love this one because it really stretches out my back and feels good. So I bring my heels a little bit further apart. I walk forward and drop down. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And namaste. I don't know what the opposite pose for a child pose is, so we'll just finish on that. I hope everybody has a great rest of your night, and we'll see you next time. Let's do one more round of deep breathing to help send us off into sleep. So sit up nice and tall, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Good night.